Namaste Bitia, myself JVN Neha Saini from Physiotherapy and Diagnostics, Jyoti Vidyapeeth Women's University. Here I am going to tell you about the anatomy of the posterior triangle of neck. First we discuss about the boundaries of posterior triangle. So in the diagram, the blue colored area is the posterior triangle. Anteriorly it is bounded by the sternocleidomastoid and posteriorly by the trapezius muscle. Inferior boundary for this triangle is made up of the middle 1/3 of the clavicle, and here is the apex which is directed upwards, and the base is formed by the clavicle itself. Now we come to the roof of the posterior triangle. The roof of the posterior triangle is made up of the platysma muscle and the investing layer of the deep cervical fascia. So this platysma muscle is the subcutaneous muscle over here, and below that we find the investing layer of the cervical fascia, which is a deep layer, deep fascia. Here we can see the investing layer of the deep cervical fascia, which is forming a tight sleeve around the muscles of the neck. So here we can see the cutaneous nerves which are found in the posterior triangle of the neck. These nerves are the ascending branch, the ascending group, which is the great auricular nerve and the lesser occipital nerve, the transverse cervical nerve, and the descending group includes the supraclavicular nerves. So a number of cutaneous nerves, that is the branches from the cervical plexus, appear at the posterior border of the sternocleidomastoid, and these radiate in different directions, which we have discussed in the previous image. These are the supraclavicular nerve, which is supplying to the chest, skin of the chest and the shoulder. Transverse cervical nerve, which is supplying to the skin of the anterior triangle. Great auricular, the skin of the ear and the parotid region. Lesser occipital nerve, which is supplying to the skin of ear and the scalp. All of these nerves contain fibers from C2 and C3 except the supraclavicular nerve. The regional anesthesia of the skin of the neck can be accomplished by cervical plexus block. The main site of injection is just superior to the midpoint of the posterior border of the sternocleidomastoid. This point is known as nerve point of the neck. So here there is meeting point of all these cervical cutaneous nerves. Then in the superficial fascia we find the external jugular vein. It drains the most part of the face and the scalp, and begins behind the angle of the mandible by the union of posterior auricular vein and the posterior division of the retromandibular vein. So these veins are included over here, like this is the posterior auricular vein on the posterior side of the auricle, and the posterior division of the retromandibular vein. So here we can see this is the posterior division of the retromandibular vein. These both join and forms the external jugular vein. It descends obliquely deep to the platysma and receives the posterior external jugular vein, which pierces the deep fascia just above the clavicle and drains into the subclavian vein. So here we can see the external jugular vein, which is running on the anterior surface of the sternocleidomastoid. Then the floor of the posterior triangle. The floor is formed by the splenius capitis, then levator scapulae, then posterior, middle and anterior scalene muscles. These muscles forms the floor of the posterior triangle. So these muscles are covered by the deep facial, that is the prevertebral layer of the deep fascia, which is forming a carpet for these muscles. Now the division of the posterior triangle. The posterior triangle is subdivided with the help of inferior belly of omohyoid into larger triangle and the smaller triangle. The larger triangle is above, which is known as occipital triangle, and the lower triangle is below, which is known as supraclavicular triangle. Now the omohyoid muscle. Here we can see the inferior belly of the omohyoid, the small belly. This is dividing the posterior triangle into occipital and the supraclavicular triangle. So here we can see the two triangles of posterior triangle, supraclavicular and the occipital triangle. Now the contents of the posterior triangle. So it includes the nerves like spinal accessory nerve, which is the 11th cranial nerve, 4 cutaneous branches of the cervical plexus, muscular branches to levator scapulae and the trapezius, nerve to rhomboids, nerve to serratus anterior, nerve to subclavius, suprascapular nerve, and trunks of the brachial plexus. So the nerves in the posterior triangle are the cervical plexus, brachial plexus, and the 11th cranial nerve, that is the spinal accessory nerve. Now there are, in the cervical plexus we find the 4 muscular branches, 4 cutaneous branches. In the brachial plexus we find the root, trunk, and the branches of the brachial plexus like dorsal scapular nerve, nerve to subclavius, nerve to serratus anterior, suprascapular nerve. Then the accessory spinal nerve or the 11th cranial nerve, it is the important structure in the occipital triangle. So in the diagram we can see the different contents of the posterior triangle. So the important structure, as we have discussed earlier in the posterior triangle, is the accessory nerve. So the area of the triangle just above the accessory nerve is the Crayer-Free triangle, and the most important area just below the spinal accessory nerve is the careful triangle because of the structures which are overlying here. So this is the spinal accessory nerve originating from the spinal cord in the medulla oblongata. This enters up again into the skull after formation and passes out through jugular foramen in the form of spinal accessory and innervates the sternocleidomastoid muscle and the trapezius muscle. So both these muscles are supplied by the accessory nerve. Here we can see the accessory nerve. Then this is the brachial plexus. This we have discussed in the previous classes about the formation branches of the brachial plexus. Then this is the relationship of the brachial plexus and the cutaneous innervations with the clavicle. These are the cutaneous nerves. So this is the cervical plexus, which is formed from C1, C2, C3 and C4 spinal nerves, which is forming a contribution in the ansa cervicalis. Now the vessels of the posterior triangle. So vessels of the posterior triangle includes the branches of subclavian artery, that is the transverse cervical, suprascapular artery. So transverse cervical and the suprascapular artery, these are the branches of subclavian artery in the posterior triangle. Then we come to the applied. In the applied we can see the cervical ribs. A cervical rib can compress the subclavian artery and leading to ischemia and reduce blood supply to the upper limb. So cervical rib is the formation of the enlargement of the transverse process of the C7 vertebra in the form of rib. Cervical rib can also compress the brachial plexus, as we have seen in the image. Note how the lowest trunk of the brachial plexus is elevated and consequent compression of the nerve fibers leading to pain, paresthesia and muscle weakness in the area of distribution of the brachial plexus. So this compression of the subclavian artery or the brachial plexus is known as anterior Scalini syndrome because of these compressions. Now air embolism. Air can enter circulation during catheter insertion or if tubing is disconnected. If enough air is entered into the heart chamber, it will lead to blood flow is impeded and shock develops. This is the air embolism. Then the subclavian steal syndrome. It is also known as subclavian steal steno-occlusive syndrome. In this, if there is blockage in the subclavian artery on one side, suppose this is the blockage of the subclavian artery on one side, then the blood from the opposite side is stealed and it passes through the vertebral artery and crosses to the opposite side and reaches to the subclavian artery on the opposite side. So this is the subclavian steal syndrome. Then dysphagial euphoria. Dysphagial euphoria is an abnormal condition which is characterized by difficulty in swallowing, which is caused by any aberrant changes in the right subclavian artery. Then we have torticollis or wry neck. This is a spasmodic contraction of the sternocleidomastoid, which is known as wry neck or torticollis. Here we can see the torticollis wry neck. So this completes our topic, the posterior triangle of the neck. Thank you. Now we discuss about the questions of the posterior triangle. And the first question is, discuss about posterior triangle under the following headings. The headings are boundaries. So in this point we discuss the boundaries which are forming the posterior triangle, and what are the structures which are forming the roof and the floor, and what are the contents in the posterior triangle. This will be mentioned in this third point. Contents either a blood vessel or a organ or a nerve. So that will be mentioned in this point for a short, and also give a short description about these contents also. Then in the applied we discuss about the clinical anatomy of any structure which is in your posterior triangle. Then this is the exercise for your file work. You have to draw this diagram in your file. Also label all the structures which are visible in this diagram. Then this will complete your topic, the posterior triangle. Thank you.